All right. Thank you so much for joining Extraordinary Unlocked. I'm so excited to talk to our next guest. Her name is Donna Mayeda, and we worked together for some time. And she has such a compelling story of unlocking extraordinary in her life. And I reached out to her. I said, "Can we hear your story of how you did it?" So I'm going to ask Donna just to give a quick intro and share about sort of her journey of where she came from and how she got to where she's at. So, Donna, hand it off to you.
Thanks, Eugene. I'm super stoked to be on this podcast. And it is an actual honor that you think my story is extraordinary enough for your podcast.
Yes.
But I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My parents were they're Chinese immigrants from Vietnam. And that influenced a lot of like who I was, who I grew up to be, and the values that I had. And of course, being immigrant parents, the only job option for me was to become a doctor. And luckily it was something that I also enjoyed doing and really identified with. So it all worked out. But I have been a primary care provider for 6 years if you don't count residency, 9 years, almost a decade now that I think about it. I'm actually being a doctor. And primarily I've been doing primary care, which has been a really wonderful experience in just being able to establish long-term relationships with my patients and seeing the impact of like getting to know them and how that influences the care that I provide and also how it actually improves health outcomes for them. I was I was working for a company that we worked together at, delivering this care for about 6 years, and in the last year or so, just realized that there might be more that I could potentially do with the work that I'm doing. I didn't quite know what it was, but I knew that it wasn't going to be at in my current role at the
Mhm.
company. So after we had our third child, she was 4 months old, my partner and I, we just decided, let's move to Hawaii and just start over and try something new. That was really all that we had planned out. My partner was born and raised in Hawaii, and we've been back to visit. And there's just something about the culture and the people here that really, really made it feel like home
Hmm.
for me, even though I wasn't born here. I knew this is where I wanted to raise my family. I knew that this was the end game for me. So we came here. There wasn't a whole lot of job opportunities for him. All of the job prospects for me as a primary care physician were not great. And again, it just kind of felt like not exciting for me.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think was taking a toll on I guess taking a toll on my mental health because I was like, I don't know if I want to sign up to do the same thing over again, just in a different environment. So we had the idea to start our own private practice, which is really, really scary because neither of us had ever started our own practice. I mean, my partner is not even in healthcare. Things like I'll be your practice manager and I'll do all the administrative stuff. I was like, do you even know what a prior auth is? He's like, no. So yeah, so just taking a big leap of faith and decided to just go for it. So we started Keola Noa, which is not only a primary care office, it's a direct primary care office. So something even like way, way newer because we actually don't bill insurances for the services that we provide. And that's just something that's really, really new in the United
Yeah.
States in general, but very, very new in Hawaii. And we decided we wanted to do that, even though we knew that our growth was going to be slow,
Hmm.
because it was going to give us the most flexibility to have complete autonomy and ownership of our lives, um, both at work and also at home.
That's absolutely amazing. And I mean, kudos to you. And I'm sure there's so many people listening. There's like, oh my gosh, you not only left your home, like your home of what you knew, but you started a new practice and there's just so many things. And so I want to sort of rewind the tape a little bit, thinking about when you knew, okay, there's something more. Like you felt the stuckness. And I even heard it in your story of you're like, do I just want to keep doing this? Do I want to rinse and repeat this in Hawaii? Do I And so tell us a little bit more about that. Even with your movement to Hawaii, I mean, that is in itself is like, I can't be here anymore. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah. Actually, we were originally living in San Diego, and when we were reflecting back on it, we actually were really happy with our lives in San Diego. Like, our kids were great, I mean, our kids were happy, they had their friends, they enjoyed their school, and that was a hard thing to decide, like, well, there might be more, and there might be something that will really allow us to connect better with the community the way that we wanted to do it. And while the transition was so, so difficult, as soon as we got here, we just knew that it was the right choice for us. And just seeing, on days where it's been rough. I mean, it's rough when you have kids who are younger, but also just, being in a new space and new environment, and then also trying to start up your own practice. There are days that are going to be draining and exhausting, but I think that remembering what our mission is and the vision that we had for our life is really what anchored us
Yeah.
to keep going forward. And it's not like Hawaii is like an awful place to be. I mean, you have the mountains that you can go out and just look at, and you can see just how serene it is. And it kind of gives you that inspiration to keep going. There's a reason behind what you're doing.
Yeah.
And for us, it was really a way to be able to connect with our community, and start making an impact on, not just the health of the people around us, but also um, their their entire well-being.
I want to dig in a little bit too. Oftentimes, so there's a couple ways folks go about stuff like this is they like to plan it out and plan out as much as possible. And the other part being a married person and also having children, it's almost having the same vision, same mission. I oftentimes hear not only just folks that may be married or in relationships, but it's rarely on the same page. And so I'm curious about the journey to be on the same page, this future vision of Hawaii, and then even with moving to a DPC practice. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's always a big challenge too. I'm definitely someone who likes to plan things, but I think having children has actually helped me realize that I can't plan for everything. And you can plan all that you want in the world, but your children are going to have something else up their sleeve, and it's just going to, throw everything out the window. So I've learned to roll with the punches a little bit. And I think actually that has helped in both my relationship, but also in my endeavors in starting our own practice, because you kind of have to have this sense of, I can't control everything, nor should you try to control everything, because you'd be surprised what comes through your door when you just allow things to happen naturally, and the types of connections that you make. We talk a lot about who is our target market. Who are we trying to reach out to? Who are the people who would benefit from these services? And we spend all this time and all this conversation planning it out, figuring out how we're going to advertise. And it always surprises us how we end up getting the patients that we get. And it's always from just existing in the community and just showing up and making relationships. It's less so from, having the right advertisement at the right time for the right person. And I think those are the relationships that are the most meaningful. And one of the big reasons why, instead of just taking on another job where I can do the same thing that I was doing,
Mhm.
was less appealing for me. Even though I did create great relationships in the 6 years that I was working in San Diego, I think there's just a different level that we were able to achieve with the fewer patients that I have right now. And it's
Yeah.
true. We talked about, we were really worried about the DPC model. We knew that it was taking an even bigger leap because a lot of people hadn't heard of it, and we knew that people were gonna be hesitant to sign up with us because it was, you know, they had never heard of paying an additional membership fee on top of having insurance. health insurance to see their doctor. But one of the things that really aligned with us is that we wanted to break the system of working for a bigger organization that didn't necessarily have the same values as we did.
Hmm.
On the surface level, most of these big health organizations, they want to provide care, right? They want to provide timely care. But because they're so big and because they're so clunky, it's really hard for them to make the decisions that would benefit the patients themselves, because there's
Yeah.
so many other things that they have to balance. And so we felt that if we decided to become one of those standard private practices where we would accept insurance, we would go through the credentialing process, a lot of that would still be the same thing, just
Hmm.
different system. So instead of working for the health system, we're now working for the insurance companies, where they have a set of requirements that I'm supposed to meet, a set of targets that I'm supposed to meet every month in order for me to get reimbursed. And it's just not why I went into medicine. I talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people who started their own private practice, DPC or not, and everyone I've talked to, they've shared their war stories and everything, but all of them, 100% of them, they all said they would never go back. They're so glad they
Wow.
made the jump, and despite the hardships, they would do it all over again.
That's
So
amazing.
I think that speaks a lot to the power of having autonomy and ownership in the work that you do, instead
Yeah.
of just being a cog in the wheel for some larger organization.
Yeah, one thing thematically throughout every story I've listened to, it really starts with this conviction. There's a conviction of just don't know if I want to be doing the same thing over again. What might this look like doing it differently? And really taking the courage, having the courage to take the step and being in community with other folks that are like-minded to help nurture and grow how you've unlocked your extraordinary. And so, I'm curious if there was anything like a catchphrase, a story, a book, a conversation with a friend, and you're like, "Oh man, that really opened me up." Curious if anything like that happened to drive you in this direction.
Well, that's such a good question. I wish I was better prepared for it. I think growing up, I have always been someone who saw myself as a servant to the people. I those were the values that were important to my parents, where you help others and you don't expect anything in return. I think that when I went into medicine, it was just very easy for me to give everything that I had to to the people that I was taking care of. And I found that while that is, what's the word I'm looking for? While that it's admirable, it's not sustainable. And one thing that someone told me, who I also think you should have on your podcast, is Mike Lee.
Okay.
He told me you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And I think that just really resonated with me, and what helped me figure out what is it that I want and out of life, instead of always worrying about what other people want, and being okay with going after what it is that I want without feeling any shame and without worrying how other people are going to perceive me, was the biggest reason that I am where I am right now, and why I continue to push forward and believe in what it is that I'm doing. Because whenever you start your own thing, you're going to have so many people that give you advice. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But they'll say, you know, you should really not be so casual on your website, because then people don't think that you're a doctor, or you really shouldn't say this, or you really shouldn't wear this, or maybe you should like consider, I don't know, looking a different way, or having people call you Dr. Mayeda instead of Donna, so that people know you're a doctor. I take all of those things And I worry sometimes. There's those moments of weakness where I'm like, really, should I do all these things so that I can get more people to understand like what it is that I have to offer? And for that, I really am grateful for my partner who's like, no, if someone is upset or put off by the fact that you use a certain phrase or look a certain way, that's not really someone that you want to be working with anyway. And that's the
Mm,
beauty of doing our own thing. You don't have to apologize for who you are as long as you know that you are bringing value in what it is that you're offering. And I think that has been the most empowering thing where as long as I know that I'm following my true north, right? My North Star, I don't have to change what I'm doing to cater to other people.
yeah.
And that's something I wish I had known 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I wish I could have, shared with my former self. It would have saved a lot of heartbreak and stress.
Mm.
And I probably wouldn't have as many white hairs if I had known that.
What you're describing is one of the most powerful unlocks for many people. I've heard it said by another podcaster that oftentimes we have to get out of our own way. We're
Yes.
actually holding ourselves back. And
Yes.
all the fears or concerns, and it's actually not about you, it's about, what will their perception be of me? Will I be well liked or well received? And when that volume is cranked on high, nobody can please everybody at the same time. It's just not possible. But what I heard you say is really the unlock to extraordinary was I had to turn the volume down and I had to get out of my own way. And I love it that you said, I wish I told myself that 10 years ago. 'Cause then it coulda saved me a lot of heartache, a lot of trouble. And, I'm gonna be really candid here, Donna. My upbringing, my background, my parents, they're Korean, and there's so much Asian influence in what you just said because saving looking the right way. What will other people think or say about you if you show up that way? And it had dominated my life for so long that you're concerned to even take a step because it might be a misstep. And I think the moment when I learned that lesson you're talking about, it really opened me up to be really myself. I am not your stereotypical, at least in my mind, stereotypical Korean guy that's sort of quiet, mild mannered, and very okay. Let me just stay in my lane. And I just don't know how to be that. And I thought I had to. I never got the best grades. I never excelled. I just never fit the stereotype. And the moment that I said, you know what? Forget that stereotype. I'm never going to be that guy. I'm just going to do me. I feel like that's when my life really started moving in a different direction. And it sounds like that's very similar for you. And I don't know how much Asian influence it had, just cultural upbringing. Open to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I had very similar expectations. And I think for me, particular being female as well, to be,
Right.
respectful and meek and I think that what you're describing though is also very, very unique in the experience that we have as Asian Americans. So
Right.
growing up with these background of an Asian culture, but in an American environment, there's just so many different values and clashes that just kind of fight each other. And growing up in that with those clash of identities can be very stressful because you're trying to figure out who you are and how to navigate this world in an American system with these Asian values that have been instilled in you.
Yeah.
But
That
I
that
think
is
there is
so
a way.
fascinating. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, I think that there is a way. It seemed, and when I first started exploring this topic for myself, I was like, "Oh, there's no end to it. There's no victory to be had here. Like I'm just doomed." But now there is a way. There's a way to find that balance where you can still honor where you come from, where your family and your culture comes from, but also at the same time not let it stifle you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was jokingly gonna say that the difference between your story and my story, Donna, in terms I definitely didn't fit the Asian stereotype, but you fulfilled it. You became a doctor. You did all the things. I'm like, well, Donna, you actually achieved the
Yeah.
through my
No.
failure, I had to come to an agreement, like, "Okay, I'm never gonna be that person." But you've actually
Well,
achieved it. Oh my gosh.
Well, the funny thing is that when I was in my 30s and I had finished becoming a doctor and all of that stuff, I did have this like, oh, moment. I had this moment where I thought, oh my gosh, do I actually want to be a doctor? is that what I want to do? I mean, it seems like it would be too late now, and I worried for a long time, and take a it did take a couple of years for me to wrestling with, is everything that I had been working for up to that moment something for someone else, for my parents, or was it for me? And it was hard. It was hard for me to figure out the answer to that. But I think that with all the work that I've done and with all of these amazing people who have supported me in advocating for myself, I've arrived at where I am right now, which is yes, because I'm living in a place where I want to live and I'm doing work that I want to be doing. And I think that's how I'm able to reconcile those differences of, yes, it was something that my parents really wanted me to do, but now I'm making it my own.
Yes,
I'm refusing to be a cog in the wheel of the healthcare system, and now I'm doing what is meaningful for me.
that is so powerful. Tell me a little bit more of just the joy and the gratification. I hear it coming through, but tell me a little bit more of just what if even for your partner, would love to hear maybe just talking about their experience too, but the joy, the really the extraordinary you're experiencing.
It feels, I mean, playing on the name of your podcast, it feels like we've unlocked something within ourselves and we're able to show up really authentically for ourselves, for our kids, for our community, and we're not burdened. I mean, it's not a perfect system. There's going to be good days,
Of
there's going
course.
to be bad days. There's going to be some times when someone says something and that really makes you pause and rethink like, "Oh, am I doing the right thing?" But I think that's part of growing and I think that's part of living. And that's also something that I've learned is that you can't wait for all the conditions to be perfect before you take the
Mm.
first step. Otherwise, you're just never going to move. You're just going to stand still. So, it's really okay if things aren't all planned out and perfect and you just go in there and try it out and then you can always improve upon it later.
In your story, like just where you're at today, hearing that there's so much what they call congruence and alignment. You're aligned and congruent to how you envisioned it, how you want it, and you named it for your children, for your community, and that is so powerful to be able to live in that. And that's sort of the goal of this podcast. When I had the conviction about it, I had heard so many of these stories, not only your story, Donna, but so many other people. But you don't read about it. And whenever you look at podcasts today, it is truly like there's interviewing a celebrity and okay, how did you become a celebrity? But there's so many more normal people like you and me that are just trying to live it day by day and yet can still experience extraordinary. I remember when I was in this is crazy. When I was in the chemistry lab on third shift, I knew this is not it. I was going to work. I clocked in 10 p.m. I wouldn't end work till about 6 a.m. And at the time, I chose third shift because A, paid a little bit more. B, I mean, I got to see my kids during the day for a little bit when I was awake, but I just knew long term, this is not it. And when I attended my first leadership development seminar, that is where the conviction came like, I need to do this. Like, I can do it. I want to do it. The craziest part is that the company I was working for as a chemist, they are the people that moved me into a role to do leadership development. And so the people that used to be my bosses and the boss's boss, I was now teaching in front of them. And talk about imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh, this is so different. And yet there was success in that realm and
Yeah.
ability to influence. And it just unlocked. And you're right. There I had no plan. I mean, I sort of had a plan, an idea, a future state I want to be in. And now, like so many years after that point, people ask me like, "Do you miss the chemistry lab?" Heck no, I don't miss Do you miss being in prison? No. And so I just say like, this is where in your story, I resonate so much. And that's really the hope is that someone would hear your story, Donna, and be like, wow, if Donna could do it, maybe I could too.
I mean, that makes total sense where you would find that congruency for yourself in the leadership development. realm because you're that is just that's you're so in your element whenever in the times that I've worked with you, and I've learned a lot from you as well in working with you.
Well, thank you.
I take a lot of that, even though I'm not necessarily working with leaders, a lot of that is embodied in how I show up in the community and how to show up as a leader in the community. But I wanted to share that I actually, when I was listening to your story about where you found that aha moment of where it is that you wanted to be, I had a recent experience when I had a patient who signed up to work with me. She was 101 years old and her family signed her up. Her family signed her up because she had just gotten out of the hospital after a fall and they were scrambling to try to figure out how they were going to support her when she came home from the hospital and couldn't get a hold of her primary care doctor. They found me and they wanted me to help. They're like, "Where's your office? It's going to be so difficult because she broke some ribs to get her into the car and, all this stuff." And I just had this thought like, why don't I just come to you? Why don't I just drive to your house and evaluate her there? And turned out she ended up living 5 minutes from where I lived. And one, it was so freeing to be
Mm,
able to just make that decision for myself without needing to get approval from whoever the powers that be. Like, is it okay if I just go to a patient's house and see them? And, that process would have taken forever. But
yeah.
I was able to make the decision. The family was like, whoa, yeah, we would want you to come over to our house. That would make our lives so much easier.
Yes.
And I was able to get over there in the next couple of days, evaluate her in her comfort zone, and it was just
Yeah.
that being in that house, being with that family was just I knew I had made it.
Mm,
Where the family was just so comfortable. Like I started evaluating, talking to the family, and then her daughter just started getting up and starting to go to the kitchen to like make some food for us. And she's like, "I'm sorry, I was like, "Oh, it's okay. We can continue talking. Like you keep talking in the kitchen and I'll stay with her." And
yeah.
it just felt like this is it. This is what I have envisioned for myself and this is how I know that I've succeeded because I get to have experiences and moments like this where I can help a family but also become part of their family as well.
I have goosebumps running down all over. That is such a powerful story, and I'm just trying to imagine, like, you're treating the grandmother, and the daughter just gets up, "I'm just gonna cook some food," like, "That's cool, like, I'm doing my thing," and but just that in that moment, you're like, "This is it. I've arrived. I'm doing exact part." It's just you're doing what you love to do and are really free to do. So, this is such a wonderful story, and the last thing I always ask every guest is rewind back to when you were feeling that tension inside, just the stuckness, and what advice would you give? And I feel like you've already given so much great advice in the conversation we've had, but say that you just got 5 minutes with them and you only can impart one piece of advice. What would that be?
I might want to change this later if I think about it, but I think the advice would be, and this is where the nerd in me comes out, is unplug from the matrix.
Okay, say a little bit more.
Just that if you're unhappy and you're feeling this tension inside, listen to it because you're probably Neo in the Matrix and you don't know it yet. And I forget, I have to watch the movie again, but once that Morpheus and once that Trinity comes and shows up to you and it's like, hey, this is not reality. There is something different. There is something more for you to live fully and authentically. Take Follow them. Take the blue pill or the red pill or whatever pill it is that helps you unplug from that matrix, right? And don't be afraid because there is something that's more beautiful and more whole waiting for you on the other side.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, at the end, I always ask a few random questions, lightning round questions. And so,
Okay.
moving to Hawaii, what was your biggest surprise?
That I need to become a better driver.
What? What does that
Because
mean?
better parker. The stalls are so, so tiny and there's no parking anywhere. So, yeah, and it's a struggle for someone who has a minivan.
Yes, definitely. Okay, that I did not expect that. That surprised me with the answer.
Yeah.
And then what's been your favorite treat to get while living in
Food-wise?
food-wise? Yes.
Oh my gosh, everything, but one of the things that I absolutely every time I come to Hawaii, like, indulge myself on is Ted's Hapea chocolate pie, and it used to be widely available in grocery stores, but for some reason, he stopped shipment to him, so his store is located in the North Shore of Hawaii, which is, like, 40 something minutes away from where I live. And so that used to be the only place that I could go get it. But now he's shipped it back to the grocery store, so I'm just so happy.
That sounds delightful. Well,
Yeah, you
Donna,
gotta try
thank
it.
you so much. Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna try it. I need to get out to Hawaii with my family. I've got 5 wild children and a wife, and so we may show up 7 deep and be like, "Where's the pie?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Donna, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for speaking to
Thank
the
you again,
Extraordinary
Eugen.
Unlocked. Yeah, this has been awesome. And so we're gonna sign off and just say, thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.